So today's presentation, we're excited to have Mike Stagg talk to us about winter walking. And boy, I'll tell you, this is the time of year when we really need this kind of information. I woke up yesterday to 3 inches of snow, and I woke up this morning to I call it a freaking winter wonderland. Um, and it was cold and chilly and slippery all over the place. Mike, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're talking about today on how do we prevent those slips, trips, and falls that we're going to have inevitably come to us. That time of year is coming. It's what 29 degrees outside right now here at the Trust. It's chilly out there. It's chilly here in the office, and
In the
we
office today.
woof. We need to be prepared so we can help prevent these silly slips, trips, and falls because there's some massive kind of injuries that can come from this. A lot of these injuries are musculoskeletal related. When we talk musculoskeletal injuries from slips, trips, and falls, we're talking things to like your rotator cuff, maybe your head or brain, concussions and things like that, fractures, bruises, contusions, abrasions and lacerations from slipping and falling and scraping your elbow or your knee on the ground. Okay. Other things like sprains and strains usually don't happen from the fall itself, but they happen when you go to catch yourself, right? You're walking along and you slip on the banana peel and you go to catch yourself and you pull a muscle trying to catch yourself from falling. Or you get something from a claim that we saw come in this morning. Somebody was walking and tripped on a piece of carpet and sprained an ankle. Okay? We get those injuries all the time from these silly little slips, trips, and falls. So let's talk about that for a minute and talk about what the difference is between slips, trips, and falls. So first thing is a slip. Okay, a slip is a loss of balance due to lack of traction between the feet or your footwear and the walking or working surface you're on. Okay, when we're walking along a surface, what we have is what is called the coefficient of friction. And a coefficient of friction means if you have a high coefficient of friction, it means that you are less likely to slip. So if you're wearing a pair of shoes with good tread and walking on dry roads, then you have a high coefficient of friction. Okay, as soon as you start to take away some of that, you lose some of the tread on your shoes, you're walking around in bare feet maybe, or it's a little snowy or a little icy or a little wet. Okay, or there's something on the surface that decreases that coefficient of friction and you get a higher chance of a slip. Okay. The next thing is a trip. Okay, there's differences between slips, trips, and falls. Here we go. A trip is when your foot or lower leg hits an object and your upper body keeps moving forward or keeps going backwards. And the lower half of your body has stopped. Okay, that's when you get a trip. Or it's stepping down to a lower surface and losing your balance. So you could think of that like as a stair, right? How is that similar then to a fall? So as we look at a fall is moving downward rapidly without control from a higher to a lower level. Okay. In conjunction with a trip, you could trip and then fall. Okay. Occurs when you're too far off the center of balance. And we have two kinds of falls that we look at. You know, a fall at the same level. I'm walking in my office. Everything is completely level, no elevation changes, and I fall. Okay. That's a fall at the same level. Or I'm walking down the stairs and I fall down the stairs. Now that's a fall to a lower level because my fall started at a higher elevation and my body ended up on a lower elevation when it stopped moving. Okay, so a slip, a trip, and a fall. Different things, but all very important as we look at the different causes of these. Okay, so causes of slips. What we're doing when we slip is we are decreasing the coefficient of friction between our feet and the walking or working surface, okay? So things like wet products or spills on smooth floors or walking surfaces, those things decrease the coefficient of friction. Wet roads, snow, ice on sidewalks, okay? Those decrease the coefficient of friction and cause us to slip. Grease and oil, obviously, because they're very slippery, causes slips. Things like dust, paper, plastics, and polished surfaces, those also are huge causes of slips. Things that cause the coefficient of friction to decrease between our feet and the surface that we're on, thereby causing a slip and a fall. from a lower level. Okay. Causes of trips then. Things like hoses, cables, cords, wires that are laid out across the floor. Things like clutter and housekeeping items. Things like books or magazines or sports equipment or tools maybe. Okay, things that are maybe on the floor that we could trip over. Unexpected elevation changes. So maybe you have a sidewalk with a heaving sidewalk where you've had roots growing underneath and pushing up the sidewalk, and you have more than a quarter-inch deviation. That's a trip. That's a trip hazard. Okay, carpets and rugs. Take a look at the picture here. Some of us have these mats in our office that allow your chair to kind of move around on the floor. Okay, I'm sure we've all seen some of the edges of those mats coming up a little bit. Okay, that could cause a trip hazard. This claim that we had just come in today about somebody walking to the bathroom, tripped on a piece of carpet that was a little irregular, and they tripped and they fell. Okay, so lots of different causes of these trips, and we see them every single day. There are many human factors that go into play here as we look at slips, trips, and falls. Okay, we're getting older, and that's okay. We're getting older, but we gotta realize that we're getting older. Okay, that failing eyesight or visual perception, the perception distance or the depth perception may be decreasing. We may think something is farther away from us than it really is, and we're thinking, oh, you know what, we can get over that. It'll be just fine. Okay, and we're not able to anymore. Physical condition and fatigue. We may be tired from working all day and not just be paying attention to what we should be. What about stress and illness? Yeah, if we don't feel well, God, we're just worried about keeping things down, not worried about us going down. Okay, going down on the ground. Stress is a huge one. Okay, if our mind's somewhere else other than on the slippery road that we're walking, that we're on the slippery sidewalk that we're walking on, God, that could be a problem, right? Medications, alcohol, and drug effects are another human factor. As you think about your coordination and your balance and your depth perception, okay, the way that alcohol might mix with different drugs or different medications that you may be taking, okay, think about that. Maybe we don't use alcohol or illicit drugs, but we're on medications and we mix medications unknowingly. We take some medication that has a side effect with another medication that increases that side effect. Okay, there are many human factors here involved. Other human factors are us trying to be Hercules, right? And trying to get everything done in one trip, carrying or moving too many cumbersome objects or simply too many objects at the same time. We've all fallen into this trap before. We're in our car. It's a day like today. It's cold outside, and we have, a carload of groceries to bring in the house. But dang it, nobody wants to go out to the garage because it's cold out there, and I'm going to make it all in one trip. So I'm going to load up my arms with as many bags as I can and get in the house in one trip. Okay, we've done that. We've all done that before. Why do we do that? Because dang it, we only want to make the one trip. But what can that do? Yeah, that can throw off your center of balance, and gravity is always going to win. Okay, if we throw off our center of balance and our center of mass and center of balance aren't in line with each other anymore, it may cause us to fall. Okay, not paying attention to your surroundings or walking distracted. This is a big one, right? Because we have these things, and everyone's got these stupid little phones, and everyone's doing this and walking around, okay, and not looking where they're going. This weekend, my family and I, we were at the Farmington Station, which is a shopping center here in Farmington. We just gotten done eating dinner, and we walk out of the restaurant, and there's a kid walking along the road, just doing this, just texting on his phone, totally oblivious to what's going on, and he walks right into a lamp pole. Right? I mean, I wish I had the phone out so I could record him because it was hilarious, but they happen. Okay, because we're so engrossed in these stinking phones that we don't look up and pay attention to what's going on around us. That can cause a slip, trip, and a fall. Another thing that can really cause a slip, trip, and a fall is just being in a hurry and rushing, okay, and taking the shortcuts and not doing it the right way every time. It's when we take the shortcuts that we're going to get an injury, get hurt, or really trip over that hazard that has been a problem for a while. So let's talk about prevention. Different prevention techniques we're going to talk about here is workplace design and processes, good housekeeping and why that's important, safe walking practices, and then wearing proper footwear. And how all of these kind of cohese together to help prevent slips, trips, and falls. Okay, workplace design is the first one that we're going to talk about. Proper maintenance is important. Okay, we got to make sure that we put everything away. Roll up the cords, roll up the electrical cords. Okay, roll up the hoses, put them away when we're not using them. Make sure that everything has a place. Look at installing non-slip surfaces in the workplace. Okay, things like mats and runners over flooring. Okay, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Could help increase that coefficient of friction so we don't have that slip. Take a look at the repair of your mats. Make sure they're not folding or curling in areas that could cause a slip, trip, or fall hazard. Adequate lighting is incredibly important for as we look at our design of our workplaces and avoiding slips, trips, and falls to make sure that we are in an area of that we can see everything that's around us. If there's a hazard, if there's a cord on the floor, that we can make sure that we're hyper aware of the things going on there so that we can make sure that we avoid those areas. Okay, let's talk about snow and ice here for a minute because it's coming. Jason and I were talking earlier. He had 3 inches of snow in Cache County overnight, and then walked out to a winter wonderland of ice. Okay, this morning because it got cold overnight, and yeah. Anyway, regular removal and monitoring of snow and ice around your property is especially important. Think about the entrances to your buildings where you could have public walking, where you could have staff walking. Okay, we need to make sure that we are removing the snow and monitoring the ice buildup in those areas, making sure that the walkways, the parking lots, the sidewalks, those things are taken care of because those are our jurisdiction. Okay, we've got to make sure we take care of those sidewalks and the parking lots and make sure that they are free of snow and ice. Now I realize we're getting to the time of year where it could be snowing all day. And we don't have a staff member to sit outside and just shovel snow for 8, 12, 15 hours a day while the business is open, right? We just don't have that. What we have to do, though, is we have to be reasonable and prudent in our duties to remove the snow and ice so that we can say, hey, you know what? We're doing the best we can. We're not letting it build up, but we're clearing our walks. We're clearing the sidewalks and the building entrances to make sure that you have a safe way to get into the building. The way we can do that is make sure that you have snow and ice removal logs at each place that you remove snow. Okay, that's one of our greatest recommendations as we look at snow and ice removal is that you have a log that says this is when we shoveled the snow, this is who did it, this is what time, this is when we threw ice melt, this is who did it, this is what time. Okay, so that we can have a regular log that shows that we are being reasonable and prudent in our duties to make sure that we keep our roadways clear, the sidewalks clear, and the entrances to our buildings clear for the public and people to come into the buildings on a safe manner. Okay, let's look at housekeeping for a minute. All places of employment, passageways, storage rooms, and service rooms shall be kept in an orderly and in sanitary condition. This is directly from OSHA. It's an OSHA standard for us. And anytime we see shall and OSHA speak, it means you got to do it. It means must. So this means that all places of employment, all passageways, storerooms, and service rooms have to be clean, orderly, and sanitary. Okay, we got to clean things up. Got to make sure the housekeeping is well done. Okay, so that we have safe surfaces to walk around on. This is a good task to undertake maybe this week. Take a look at the housekeeping around our facilities in our walking and working areas, in our storage rooms, in our passageways. Let's make sure that everything is put away, that we've got clear pathways to our furnaces, our equipment, the things that we're going to need to access so that we aren't slipping and tripping or falling over pieces of equipment or garbage or things like that, or the hockey sticks, the basketball hoops that we don't need to be tripping and falling over. Here's just a few of the pictures that we've seen around as we've gone around and done visits with our members. So you see we've got storage rooms with things just all over the place that you've got to step over in order to try and get to a piece of equipment. We've got a rug here that's been moved and it's been pushed up against the side of against the wall there, causing a tripping hazard. Okay, we've got tools and equipment in the workplace, in the walking area, so that we're going to trip and fall if we're not being careful enough. Footwear is essential to avoiding slips, trips, and falls and preventing it. Make sure we have footwear that's appropriate for the task. You want to have a footwear that has good tread depth on it, something that's non-slip resistant and non-skid, and it's designed for the task. Now that could mean we have different footwear for different kinds of tasks, and that's great. Okay, but take a look at the footwear that we make sure that we have good, solid footwear for the situation that we're tackling. Now that may mean we've got to wear these ice booties over the top of our shoes to give us more coefficient of friction to help us avoid the slips on the floors. Okay, if we do that, we got to make sure we use them correctly, we get the right stuff, and they're designed for that right task. Because if we're using a piece of footwear that isn't designed for the task that we're doing, we could cause more damage than good. Okay, if we've got tacks or something that's in the shoe or the strap or the ice strap that we put on to help us get traction in thick ice, but we're using it on a surface that is not icy, it makes it a tripping hazard because then we're going to trip over those long spikes that we have rather than helping us stay hooked to the surface. Be aware of the surface treatments around your working areas. Okay, what we're trying to do with any kind of surface treatment is to increase that coefficient of friction. Okay, things like rubberized coating, mats and runners and grip tape, those things increase the coefficient of friction on surfaces. Now, when you look at surfaces like a garage floor that may be a polished surface, okay, or you look at a solid stone floor, say in an entryway to your buildings, that may be wet from the outside rain, or people dragging in snow on their shoes and melting now on the smooth surface of your city hall. Okay, think about putting mats and runners there just to increase the coefficient of friction, thereby making it less likely for a slip, trip, or a fall because we're increasing that coefficient of friction in those areas. Take a look at the floor openings and identify any issues that you have with floor openings. Any floor opening, any temporary floor opening shall have standard railings or shall be constantly attended by somebody while that floor is open. Think manholes, think sewer covers, things like that. Okay? Even other floor openings, they have to be guarded. Every pit and trapdoor floor opening, however infrequently used, has to be guarded, or it has to be attended by somebody at all times, okay, when it's in operation. So maybe we have a maintenance shed where we do oil changes for our trucks and our cars for our fleet, okay? Those areas have to be guarded or constantly attended by somebody or protected on all sides by railings so that we can make sure that nobody falls inside these doors. Now, this is one of the very first videos that Jason ever received from the trusses, so I stole it and I stole that bit from him because it's a great representation of how quickly a floor opening can turn disastrous. Yeah, woo, that's a bad one. Okay, floor openings need to be covered, they need to be guarded, and we need to make sure that we have people around attending them if they're open. Every stairway or floor opening has to be guarded by a standard railing. Some of us have in our facilities some areas with a mezzanine or a loft or a storage area above an office area, say, for example. And there has to be a railing provided on all exposed sides except at the entrance to a stairway. Okay, but we've got to have a railing up there with a toe board, and that railing is tall enough so that people don't fall off of that platform. Take a look at the picture again. We've got a nice stairway up with a good railing and things like that. But then as you get up to this area up on top where there's storage and things being stored on there, you don't see a railing up along that mezzanine. We've got to have a railing up there to protect the workers who's ever up there from falling off of that platform to the ground below. Every wall opening for which there is a drop of more than 4 feet has to be guarded by a rail, a picket fence, a half door, or some kind of barrier that makes it difficult for somebody to fall from that area. Every flight of stairs having 4 or more risers has to have a handrail. Okay, this is one of those things that we can look at today, that we can make a goal look at today or this week or whatever it may be, but do it soon to take a look at the stairways. If you have anywhere that has 4 or more flights of stairs, you got to have a standard handrail. make sure that handrail is in good repair, that it's attached securely to the wall or securely to the floor, so that we can make sure if people are using it for balance or to help them get up the stairs, that it's not going to move or shift on them in an unexpected way. Parking lots, again, make sure we clear the ice and the snow in a timely manner and document. Document when we're doing that, when we clear the ice and the snow, make sure we document those things. Make sure we have a time, who did it, and when it was done so that we can have that documentation. Audits are extremely important as we look at lowering the risk of a slip, trip, or a fall in our agencies. Make sure we regularly inspect all of our facilities. Okay, regularly inspect your sidewalks. Okay, we have jurisdiction over in the sidewalks in our area. Make sure we have a sidewalk inspection program. If you don't have a sidewalk inspection program, to make sure you audit and inspect all of your sidewalks, get with Jason or I. Jason at utahtrust.gov, Mike at utahtrust.gov. We're more than happy to help you get a program like that off the ground. And anything that you find inside of your facility audit that relates to a slip, trip, and a fall, a maintenance issue, anything like that, when you're doing your audits, make sure it's a closed loop system. And what that means is that you have a problem, you identify the problem, you write it down, you close the area down until it's fixed. And then the person who fixes it writes down what they did. This is who fixed it. This is what I did to get it back into a safe service, and this is when it was put back into regular service. That closed loop system to track all of our findings is essential as we look at safety. A monthly safety audit form, much like this, is important. We have these available for you. You can get with Jason or I again. We're happy to send some of these documents over to you so you can have those for your organization. Now, there is a correct way to fall. Many of you may not have known that, but there is a good way to fall. If you're going to fall, if something happens, okay, lean forward into the fall. This is going to help to lessen the chance of a catastrophic injury. Because if you lean backwards into the fall because you're trying to catch your balance, okay, and you're leaning backwards and you fall, now you're going to fall on your back or you're going to hit your head and have a head or a brain injury, okay? How to fall, lean forward into that fall, okay? Lean with the fall, go with the fall. Keep your head up, protect your head and protect your face, and fall like a sack of potatoes or a sack of beans. Now, I know that's counterintuitive because as we fall, we're going to tense up because, man, this is going to hurt, okay? But if you relax, it's going to lessen your chance of having a catastrophic injury, okay? Make sure you turn as you fall. Turn your body as you fall so you don't hit the chest area, so you don't hit your back, so you land on a larger, fleshier, more muscle part of your body. Okay, so remember, gravity is always going to win in a slip, trip, or a fall. So we've got to make sure we know where the problem areas are and we keep things clean and organized so that gravity doesn't have a chance to win for us because we are making things visible. We're fixing our problems when we need to. We have the proper equipment and footwear, and we're just being smart about what we're doing, and we're taking our time, and we're being aware of the surroundings around us, okay? If we do those things, we can make it so that gravity isn't a factor. We can make sure that we are being cognizant of our areas, and we're making sure that we can stay safe out there. Okay. Jason, we got any questions?
Oh, no questions so far, folks. If you've got any questions, please type those into the chat box. We did have a couple of comments from the illustrious Jeff Rowley.
Uh-huh.
Jeff said another human factor is that we is what we choose to wear. Fancy leather bottom shoes look good, but they are not great on wet and icy surfaces. Choose wisely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jeff also commented when you were talking about snow and ice cleaning logs. He says if it's not recorded on a log, you did not do it.
If it's not recorded, it never happened. That's right. Great point. Jeff's our claims manager, so he knows a thing or two about these things. So we see a lot of these claims. Like Jason, what did we have earlier? What did we see a claim with a chicken or something? And
yeah, it was. We get an email every day that comes in with all of the new claims, and we had 6 new claims today, and 2 of those were slips, trips, or falls. Both of them trips and falls cases there, and both of them were really predictable. One that Mike talked about that was a bad spot in the carpet. caught their toe, caught their foot on the damaged carpet. The other one, the description was employee was carrying a chicken for follow-up on a case and tripped over a stump. So what's the answer to that? You got to be careful how you're carrying your chickens.
That's
Uh,
right.
be aware of your surroundings and hold those chickens out to the side so you know exactly where those hazards are when you're walking. Now I kind of poke fun a little bit about carrying the chicken, but that's absolutely a key principle is keep your eyes where you can see what the hazards are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So looks like we have no other questions on this session. What's the final word, Mike?
I think the final word is just like Jeff said. We have to go out, we have to be smart, and if it's not recorded, you didn't do it. So the snow and the ice removal that we're gonna start to do here in the next few days. Make sure you log those things and be smart. Don't let these things take up your attention. Be smart what we're doing. Don't give gravity a chance to win because we don't want that.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Folks, it's that time of year. Let's go out and have a safe day.
Thanks, everyone.